Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Toilets to Titles, and welcome back to TGIF. This guy is fragile. Thank God it's Friday. Here we are, John. It's any big plans for the weekend?
Man, I'm going to a funeral tomorrow.
Oh,
So that's
well,
and
I
then
I should have asked before.
it's all good. It's all good. I'll be with family,
Yeah.
So going to got that going on. Sunday mornings I coach. So I'll be doing that for about 5 hours. I do speed and agility for a softball program by me. And it's like five different age groups. And then after that, we are going to Man, we're going somewhere. I think we're going to like this Harry Potter experience in Westchester that my wife's aunt got for the kids, so we're taking them. So it's like some outdoor thing going on. So we do have some plans, man. And then tonight I'm going to be on a show with Nino, and we are going to be interviewing a linebacker from the University of Colorado, and that's after Nino is discussing Ball State with the voice of Ball State, and then he's got on a sophomore wide receiver from the University of Colorado. So a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff's going on. How about you?
Yeah. So not nearly as much as you, evidently, but we did get some new boards in to finish up the wall that I've been working on for a while. So the wall along the fireplace is going to look really nice here. Hopefully by the end of the weekend. But other than that, a whole lot of I'm still trying to pass this biology class. But anyway, for those of you that are watching and listening right now, you obviously know the face and the voice that you're hearing. That's the face and the voice of Toilets and Titles. That's the at Coach Sheps himself, and my main man, my right hand man. Or actually, I think I'm the right hand man. You're the man. But George is out this week. He says that he's on a work trip, but really, I think he's just enjoying his time away from everything. You know
And
how
they were busy. Him and Jason were very busy. If you're on Facebook, and I'm sure they posted it on Twitter, BFTG Charities, they were at Target
mhm,
this week.
yeah.
And what was it like? They got like $6,500 worth of toys to donate to kids in need, like kids that they're making tons of kids Christmas this year,
Yep.
Christmases or holidays, whatever you want to call it. So man, he deserves a little bit of a break.
Real life Santa Clauses. Yeah,
Yeah.
Santa always takes a vacation after Christmas, so
Yeah, man.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
But no, it might actually be a work thing. I don't really know. I'm just
Yeah.
giving him a hard time. But anyway, we do have TGIF. This is your injury update show for the week. And I mean, let's just get right down to brass tacks here.
Before we do, I do want to mention yesterday we brought up trifocal football in the chat,
Oh, I
and
have.
that had me going down a rabbit hole, and I kept looking for places, and it's still on Spotify. Surprisingly, like it's off Podbean, it's off Apple Podcast, it's still on Spotify. So I found the first episode that I brought you on as a guest, and then I'm in the office today. So this is where we recorded this is where I
Oh
recorded
yeah.
the first episode of Toilets to Titles. So it's like man, I'm the guest. I'm like your co-host today. We're in the office, so it's like, man, everything is coming full circle. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk about some unfortunate injuries.
Yeah, man. I still haven't went back and listened to that yet, but we have kind of gone full circle, and we've come a long way. And a big reason that we've come a long way is because of you guys, the Patreon supporters, the viewers, the listeners. Even if you're not a Patreon supporter, we appreciate the click. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification so that you can comment live for us. Every little bit of that helps out. I still haven't checked to see if we got a 5-star review on Apple yet, but don't forget, free CD Lamb rookie card to anybody or to the next 5-star review if we haven't already gotten one. Again, patreon.com/toiletsandtitles, and go to toiletsandtitles.com to check out all of the other work, the articles and the shows and everything that the guys are doing. So
And for Christmas or for the holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate, the next person that signs up for our Patreon, whatever level it is, I will match. So you'll get an extra month for free. I will match whatever amount you sign up for. DM me on the Twitter at Coach Sheps. Let me know you signed up. I'll Venmo you I'll cover a month. I'll match you. We'll get you in the Discord chat. We'll get you access to the Patreon exclusive episodes, which are very important at this time of year. So hope to see you in there, and happy holidays.
Yeah, if George and Jason are the Santa Clauses, you're the helpful little elf here, right?
That's it. That's it. The helpful little elf. That's my aim.
All right. So the injury news. I felt like I was going to say something. Oh yeah, because you brought up Christmas. You're going to buy a Christmas gift for somebody or even for yourself, and you're on toiletstedtitles.com already. Click on that affiliate link to fanatics.com, and you'll help support us out that way too, because you want to buy that jersey anyway, right? Baker Mayfield went crazy last night. Came from behind victory for the Rams. If you're a Rams fan, if you're a Baker fan, you're going to buy that jersey anyway.
Or if you're somebody related to Jared Gray,
yeah,
who knows what he needs for Christmas, you get that Baker Mayfield jersey, man.
I like
it. Get it from that Fanatics link on the toiletstedtitles.com website.
All right. Let's get into it. The first injury we have up on the docket here is Lamar Jackson. So Lamar Jackson, Schefter confirmed that it was a PCL injury. Typically, this costs athletes 2 to 4 weeks, as previously projected. Prep for no Lamar for about 2 to 3 weeks, and cross your fingers that it's only a one-game absence. But the Ravens have called Lamar week to week. He's highly unlikely to play this week, week 14. The injury itself seems to be relatively mild, but Lamar is at risk to miss potentially 2 to 3 games. Once he returns, there should be only minimal concerns for performance or re-injury issues. So that's good news for the Ravens for the future. But this is cutting deeply into your fantasy playoffs if he misses more than this week. Once he returns, there should be – okay, I already got that. Lamar was taken down in the backfield and landed on his left knee in a bent position. There is concern. Yeah, we already confirmed it's PCL. Let's see. Oh, they're hoping he doesn't have to have a scope like Cordarrelle Patterson did, but it's looking less and less like he's going to have that done. So, and that's according to Dr. Edwin Porras of fantasypoints.com.
Man, and this led to Huntley Gate. If you play Frankenstein, this led to Huntley Gate, man. There was a little bit of drama. So waivers run at 12, and I picked up Huntley. Yeah, myfantasyleague.com. And I picked up Huntley at like 210. And then Sven, friend of the show, last year's Frankenstein winner, came back and he was like, "Hey, why did you get him for free when I bid for him?" And I don't know what happened, you know. But I'm also commissioner, so it looks a little weird when that happens. And Justin was able to go in there, get my back, and see when he put the bid in. And I don't know if he was using the app. I don't use the app, but he was able to put in a bid at 12.15, even though it ran at 12. So he didn't add drop. But he used Huntley last year down the stretch, long story short. And Huntley helped him win a championship in Frankenstein. That being said, Tyler Huntley last year, if you look at his rushing stats alone, he started 4 games, 294 yards in the ground. And I'm sure he played in 7, but he started 4, 294 yards in the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns. That's 6.3 yards per attempt. You know, that's very solid. And his passing numbers aren't too shabby either. 122 for 188, a 64.9 completion percentage, 1,081 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. So he's got more interceptions than touchdowns. That hurts you a little bit. But you're hoping for the rushing yards. You're hoping for a big chunk yardage if you have one of those leagues where you get bonuses. So I think he's startable. I think he's somewhere between quarterback 14 and 20, which is, if you're playing in Superflex and that's your quarterback too, that's not too shabby. So, if you got him, good for you. Start him, and hopefully, it's solid numbers down the stretch, through the playoffs.
And especially in Frankenstein, where we have the big rushing bonuses as well. So.
Yeah. Man, and in Frankenstein, I know we're trying to keep this thing under 45 minutes, so I don't want to talk too much. But in Frankenstein, Joshua got the number 1 seed. And the way it works is the second round of the playoffs, after the bye, the top seeds get to pick their opponent. I'm the 2 seed. So I would be able to pick my opponent next. So Joshua's already coming for me. And I'm going to tell you this, man. I'm not shook. I will never be shook. I will sleep absolutely comfortably on my pillows, anticipating this matchup. And then next week, after I beat you, After you came for me, we'll see how the chat looks on group me, man. I'm looking forward to it.
I like it. I
Yes,
like it.
sir.
I wish I could say I'm looking forward to it, but I didn't even make the playoffs. Michael Carter with an ankle injury. We have down that it is a low ankle sprain. However, Carter was not included on the team's injury report on Wednesday, suggesting the running back is good to go this week, barring any setbacks. That's according to Rich Samini, ESPN NFL Nation reporter via Twitter.
Yeah. Well, also, Samini stated that Zonovan Knight is going to stay as a part. We don't know how big of a part of this backfield he's going to be, but he's earned Robert Salah's trust. And, Zonovan Knight, he's been decent, man. He scored 12 points in PPR in week 12, 16 points in week 13. And that was, getting it done without touchdowns, man. Like he did this, 15 carries for 90 yards, 5 receptions for 28 yards. So he got 16 points the hard way. That makes me feel pretty confident. If by chance Michael Carter does not play, I'm feeling really good about Zonovan Knight, and I'm absolutely starting him. If Carter does play, I'm a little bit worried. But keep Zonovan Knight because there's a chance for re-injury. So it might not be this week. You might see him in a week or two. So hold on to him because he's been like very solid at a good time of year when you needed somebody to step up.
Very good. The next one's not super important for this week, but he's been on this injury list every single week. So I just kept the slot there because we know we're going to have him on there again next week now because he now has another injury. Josh Jacobs with a pinky finger. As of now, all we're really getting is Twitter speculation that it's probably just a dislocated or a sprained pinky finger, most likely sprained from what most people are talking. But he's already played this week. It doesn't affect your fantasy lineups at this point. So just stay tuned for next Friday. We'll have a better update heading into your week 15 matchups on that one. Next, we have Najee Harris. Najee Harris with an abdominal issue still. He has missed practice again all this week, but he also missed practice all last week and still played as well. But it says, let's see. If he does, so last week he didn't practice all week, but he still played a more limited role last week in the game. So kind of looking for kind of the same thing this week. If he does play, it's probably not going to be at a full 100% workload that he's used to. But honestly, I think it kind of worked out better for him. It seems like he's been picking up a little bit more since he's playing a little bit less. I don't know if that's translating to defenses needing to scheme a little differently for other players or what, but it does seem like it's helping him at least on a points per rush basis anyway.
Maybe it's less pressure as well. Maybe, not being the focal point of the feature of the offense is less pressure. And maybe that's helping him too. He can just go out there and be his best and not worry about trying to carry that offense. But that backfield, I'm not comfortable with it, man. Jaylen Warren came back from injury last week after missing week 12. He had 3 touches for 19 yards. Benny Snell had 7 touches for 35 yards. So between the 3 of them, because I think Warren's going to be a little more involved because now he's 2 weeks back from an injury. I'm avoiding that backfield if I can. I don't want much to do with it. And the Ravens they're 6th against the run this year. So that's not a good recipe for success.
Yeah, what a difference on that Ravens defense too. Like I drafted them in a lot of team defense leagues, and I was expecting good numbers. They start off so bad that I had to let go of them, and then the next thing you know, they start turning it around, and now they're a solid defense again.
Speaking of the Ravens, I don't think is Patrick Queen. I know we mostly talk offensive skill position players on TGIF, but Patrick Queen isn't on this doc, is he?
No, we don't normally have defense players, but you're welcome to look into that. And
so I believe it was just a thigh injury. Like it was a severe, like it looked gross, like a severe thigh bruise. So those who play IDP and those who play, with team defense, that because Roquan and Patrick Queen, they've been absolutely phenomenal. And Patrick Queen might even play this week. So that was, he got carted off. So that was very scary. So a big sigh of relief for those who manage rosters with Patrick Queen on them. Big sigh of relief for those who manage rosters with the Ravens defense, Ravens fans, Patrick Queen himself. So we dodged the big one there.
And I think I hear my wife getting into the Christmas gifts.
Ooh, where'd you hide them, man?
So evidently not good enough. I'll tell
Yeah.
you
What
that.
kind of gifts are they that you can hear her getting into them from this the
she's she's like a 5-year-old. It
yeah,
it doesn't take much.
yeah. All
All
right,
right.
so go on with
Aaron
this
Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, man.
Aaron Rodgers, he has a rib and thumb issue right now. So the rib obviously is a pain tolerance thing, and he's been playing through it. So I don't think that that's going to be any big deal. But it says here they have a bye week this week, so it's and he did not have any real setbacks with his thumb issue this past week against the Bears. So according to Mike Spoford of Packers.com, senior writer, it doesn't look like this is going to be an issue anymore, so we can finally kind of put the injuries aside for now until he gets another one. But it doesn't look like we're going to see Jordan Love anytime super soon.
And the Packers are still kind of in it. They need to hope for one of either the 49ers or the Seahawks to take the NFC West, and then for the other one of those two to just completely fall out, because they're 2 games behind the Seahawks. They're tied with the Lions. So I don't know if they can, and then also the Giants and the Commanders are 7-4, 7-5. So they have to pass them as well. But and the Giants have the Eagles this week. So, I think they're going to lose that matchup. I don't know. I don't know if they can necessarily bag it in and give it to Jordan Love. And you know what? I think Aaron Rodgers kind of runs that organization, even if he's
Yeah,
not going to be there long. I don't think he'd allow it.
right.
And I don't know if they have the guts to do it, or the capability to do it. So we dodged another one there with Aaron Rodgers. I know his numbers haven't been huge, but he's decent, and he's much better than the quarterback for this next player who's got an injury. So
Yeah. Well, and also you mentioned something about the 49ers and the Seahawks and how dependent the Packers are on those two teams. We have a guy from each of those teams on this list as well. Cortland Sutton, a hamstring issue. He was ruled out in week 13 with a hamstring strain. He has yet to practice at all this week, and it looks highly unlikely that he's going to play in week 14. Even if he plays, the data also shows he's a highly volatile play on such a quick turnaround. So with a hamstring issue, when they come back that quickly, they're a lot more likely to re-injure it. So this is finally your chance for you Cortland Sutton truthers out there that still drafted him, still hanging on to him. Some of you even still starting him. You finally get to do the right thing and bench him because he's out.
yeah.
But that update was from Dr. Edwin
It's
Porras.
not his fault though, man.
Points.
It's that quarterback play in Denver has absolutely been atrocious. Like I'm a Cortland Sutton believer. I think that guy, his skill set, he has a very good skill set. Route runner, high point the football, catch radius.
But have
Like
you started him in the last 4 weeks?
No. So I'm not.
Those are the guys I'm talking to.
But I'm not defending them. I'm defending him.
Gotcha. Yeah. No.
I think that just Denver for offensive play has just been such a black hole, and he needs to get out. He's been held hostage. I'm kind of giving up on Jerry Jeudy, but Cortland Sutton, and to be honest, I was higher on Jeudy coming out of college than I was on Cortland Sutton, because I've seen big body wide receivers like Cortland. Like I was a big Kelvin Harmon fan, and he came to the NFL and fizzled out. And I was a little gun shy with Cortland Sutton. And then I came and saw him come to the NFL, and he still looked like a man amongst boys.
Yeah.
It wasn't just an SMU smaller D1 school thing. Like he still did it at the NFL. So he needs to get out. We need to get him somewhere with an accurate quarterback, and he would really take off. But you're right. You got to. I'm not starting anybody in Denver. I'm not starting anybody but the Denver defense.
And maybe Greg Dulcich in a 2 tight end league.
I've been starting him, and he's last week was the first week he did something in like the last 4 weeks, man. I have to start him because Goddard's hurt. And I don't know if he's on this list, but Goddard's expected to come back week 15.
That's what I mean. In a 2 tight end league, that's your only option because he has the touchdown potential. And
so if you have to buy, or rather, playoffs don't start till next week anyway. So for most leagues, except for Frankenstein. So Goddard is going to come back at a perfect time.
Yes.
He's expected back. So if it's big, and that maybe he's the guy who's going to be replacing this next guy.
My two main leagues, I held on to Goddard these last 4 weeks waiting.
You had to.
So, it worked out great. Yeah, and then the next guy that you mentioned, Hayden Hurst here with the calf injury. He's now dealing with the calf injury. The 29-year-old has not been able to escape the soft tissue injury bug this week. He's at risk of missing the rest of the 2022 fantasy football regular season. Um, this could even spill in a little bit into the playoffs. But Dr. Edwin Porras via Fantasy Points with that update. So at bare minimum, it looks like he's going to miss this week, possibly even next week, and then who knows from there with the calf injury. Let's see, Christian McCaffrey next up on our list. Christian McCaffrey tweaked the knee 2 weeks ago and was limited in the second half of the game. Following the game, McCaffrey said that he dodged a bullet with the injury. He set out practice last Wednesday, was upgraded to limited on Thursday, and was upgraded again to full go on Friday. And then he was removed from the final injury report last time and took 25 snaps on Sunday against the Dolphins. So far this week, it looks like he's headed in the exact same trend. So it looks like most likely he'll probably still play. And if you have Christian McCaffrey and they are without Elijah Mitchell, and they traded away Wilson, like you have to start McCaffrey. You have no other choices. But
Oh yeah,
it does look like he's going to play.
man, and they cannot afford to take any of their foot off that gas pedal because it is close with Seattle, and they do have Brock Purdy at quarterback. They need to come out. Christian McCaffrey needs to be at his best. Deebo Samuel needs to be at his best. George Kittle, that offensive line, Brandon Ayuk, they cannot afford to ease McCaffrey into this thing. If they want a shot, especially with the way the Rams are playing, when the way the rest of the NFC is, like, yeah, you got Philly, we know Philly's scary, right? But the Cowboys, the 49ers have had their number in the past. So, I feel like the 49ers have to believe this is their year, but they got to get in. They got to get in, and they're going to need to ride Christian McCaffrey if they're going to get in. So if I have him on my roster, I'm not worried.
Yep, I agree. Ian Rappaport confirmed that Kenneth Walker's ankle injury was an impingement and not a sprain. This sounds way worse because it's a much bigger word, but it's
I don't even know what that is.
It's
made up. He made it up for sure.
Yeah. Well, Rappaport stated that the ankle swelled and was super painful. This was a couple of days ago. And as of today, Walker is at high risk of missing 1 to 2 weeks. Walker was ruled out in week 13 due to the ankle injury. He was later seen with his right foot propped up on the sidelines. After the game, Walker told reporters that he didn't sprain the ankle, but that he jammed it. So I'm assuming that that's what impingement means. He jammed it. Based on the video analysis, according to Dr. Edward Porras of Fantasy Points, it does seem that Walker stepped hard and potentially jammed his right ankle. Depending on the severity, Walker has a chance to return at less than 100% next week. However, if severe enough, this is a 2 to 4 week injury. He has been out of practice all this week thus far. So it sounds like he's leaning heavily towards missing this week and possibly even next week, which isn't ideal for your fantasy playoffs to have that, on the cusp.
It looks like Travis Homer's the most healthy in that backfield besides DJ Dallas. But Homer had an illness. He came back Wednesday. Dallas is a little banged up. They have a guy, Tony Jones, who I believe he was with New Orleans prior to being with Seattle. And he's an interesting pickup. He might be a guy, especially if you play DFS, that real low budget, high risk, high reward. But if Homer's banged up, if Dallas is banged up, this is a guy who might get touches just because he got 9 touches last week. He 7 carries, 14 yards, 2 receptions for 18 yards. But he showed he could do it in the passing game, and he's somebody to consider. So that's who you want to keep an eye on.
Very good. Treylon Burks with the concussion. Burks was ruled out last week with the concussion, and because of the new concussion protocols, there is that high risk that he could sit out this week. As of today, as of this morning, that was what Edwin Porras of Fantasy Points was saying. He kind of gives it more of the odds of Burks potentially being out because of the protocol than being in. So, and in my mind, I'm thinking about this because Uncle Steve was asking me about tight end sleepers, and I told him, Austin Hooper with with Burks being out, they're going against Jacksonville, who gives up the fourth highest amount of fantasy points to tight ends. In PPR, it's about 1.5 to 2 points difference between Jacksonville and the worst defense against tight ends. But now you have this bump of Burks potentially being out. That increases Austin Hooper's touchdown potential substantially, in my opinion. And then in our league, the main league he was asking about, it's only 0.25 PPR, so it was less than a point difference between the two defenses. So I think it's a pretty solid play there. Let's see. We have Brandon Cooks, calf strain. Brandon Cooks is expected to miss his second consecutive game this week against the Cowboys, according to Aaron Wilson of click2houston.com.
Yeah. So Cooks, if he plays, so the Cowboys are down to their corner. Their CB4 is now their CB2. And it's Kelvin Joseph. And their slot corner is also, so essentially they lost their second corner and they lost their slot corner. So they have a backup slot in, they have a backup 2 in, and this was going to be huge for Nico Collins if Cooks played, and if the Cowboys viewed Cooks as the wide receiver 1, because I believe Trayvon Diggs would be moving with him. But now Trayvon Diggs, who matches up much better with Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks. So I think this is really going to hurt Nico Collins this week. It's going to hurt. I mean, it's an 18-point spread, so you might see some garbage time points, and it's hard for me to believe an NFL team doesn't cover 18-point spread. You just don't see that a lot. But yeah, it's definitely going to affect that offense. Also going to affect Dameon Pierce because they're going to be chucking a lot.
Yeah, and Nico got that garbage time touchdown last week too, so you never know. 2 weeks in a row. Let's see. Mike Williams with the ankle sprain. He was limited at Wednesday's walkthrough. The wideout didn't practice at all last week, so the limited walkthrough on Wednesday represents a step in the right direction. As Sunday, but unfortunately it's a Sunday night game against the Dolphins. So as it approaches, it's looking more and more like it's going to be a game time decision on whether or not Williams is going to make it back in time. So if he remains out or limited through the rest of this week in practice, he really should consider Josh Palmer or DeAndre Carter, according to CBSSports.com. And I cannot disagree with that. But what do you think, Coach?
I agree. I mean, Gerald Everett has been decent. DeAndre Carter is a high risk, high reward play. Keenan Allen, he had a decent week last week, 2 weeks. He just looks kind of old. But Josh Palmer, you could start as your wide receiver 3, your flex, and he's going to get you possibly wide receiver 1 numbers. He's got week 2, 13 points, week 3, 15 points, week 6, 14 points, week 9, 18, week 11, 30, week 12, 10, week 13, 13 points. So he's putting up over 10 points, significantly more than he's not. And then there's also an opportunity. I mean, half of those games he's going over 15 points, which if you put me wide, if he's a guy I'm slotting in as my wide receiver 3 on my flex and he's giving me 15 points, I'm feeling really good about it. And as the games go on, as Allen's banged up, as Williams is banged up, he's earning that respect from Justin Herbert. And they're getting more and more comfortable with each other. So, I think he's definitely the play there.
Yeah, and you mentioned that on Tuesday's show too, so you're staying on brand for sure.
On brand.
Tuesday, the main show, Tuesday nights. Check us out. Now the big one, Jimmy Garoppolo. Man, I hate to see this one. I feel bad for this guy. It's going to be a big recovery, but this is all according to Coach Shanahan, by the way. This is what Coach Shanahan.
Not Coach Sheps.
He said this 2 days ago, and there hasn't been an update since then, and there won't be an update probably for several weeks. But he said, quote, it's still going to be a big recovery, but much less than what we anticipated, Shanahan said. It's awesome news for him in the offseason. He'll be good to go right away, so it won't be like last year. There's that way outside chance of returning late in the playoffs or something like that, but it's just an outside chance. I'm not really optimistic about that, but they didn't rule it out. So they're saying, if Brock Purdy does come in and fails miserably, which he looked good when he did come in this week, but against the Dolphins, but they said that if he So then it just looks like if for whatever reason they're still deep in the playoffs and Purdy isn't cutting it, who knows? Maybe we'll get to see Garoppolo late in the playoffs. But from the sounds of it, at least he'll be ready for this offseason. But by then, who knows? He may have already lost the spot again to another rookie.
Yeah, and you've heard my thoughts on this. I mentioned it when I discussed Christian McCaffrey. They're going to have to ride McCaffrey and Debo, try to get the ball to George Kittle, and I think that it just pushes Ayuk down a little bit. I think he's less likely to be involved than McCaffrey and Debo because it's easier to get those to the football.
Yep, very good. All right, Joe Mixon, concussion. Looks like he's good to go. He'll be back this week. He's out of the protocol and back to starting, according to Cleveland.com. I didn't realize that the city had its own website, but Kadarius Toney with the hamstring issue. Kadarius Toney has missed 2 straight games due to the hamstring issue. He has been limited to practice all week this week, which is a step in the right direction considering he missed every practice all week last week, going into the team's Week 13 matchup. So according to Dave Castile of FanDuel.com, it sounds to me like there's at least an optimistic chance that he might play this week. So definitely stay tuned on that one for Sunday morning on the Blitz to get that injury update at the last second.
And that's Deontay Johnson. We're used to him with just high reception numbers, and he's only gone over 5 receptions 3 times this year. And those were all in the first 3 weeks of the season. He hasn't done it since.
Johnson?
I'm sorry?
Did you say Deontay Johnson?
Yeah.
Okay. You're right on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm already on to the next guy.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, so Deontay Johnson, I apologize. I skipped Kadarius Toney. I didn't have much to say about him. But Deontay Johnson, he has the hip pointer, right? It was did not participate on Thursday due to a hip issue. At times, this can be listed as hip and encompass the groin. Assuming this isn't a contact injury, since it's practice, there's a chance he has a strained groin, which typically results in 1 to 3 weeks of missed time. This is something to monitor. And I think like Courtland Sutton, I don't think the Steelers offense is as bad as the Broncos offense, but very similar. Like, it's just been so hard to start this guy because you're starting him as a wide receiver 2. Some leagues you're starting him as a wide receiver 1, and his production has just been so poor. And, compared to his standards. And then you look at George Pickens, who, I was beating the drum for, early in the season, and I still believe in the talent. Like, I think George Pickens is a dude, but he's just hit or miss. They only targeted him twice last week, which is ridiculous. Week prior, he had 10 points. Week prior, he had 18 points. So he has the potential, but can you, in such a big week where if you need to win to move on to the playoffs, I don't think I could start any of these Steelers wide receivers. I don't.
I might have a scenario for you where you might, and we'll talk about it after the show. We're pushing time now, but let's see. But that pretty much covers. That was going to sound. That pretty much covers Deontay Johnson's hip.
Yeah.
So let's cover T. Higgins's hamstring. T. Higgins with the hamstring was a limited practice on Thursday, and this is less than ideal, but the sky isn't falling yet, according to Dr. Edwin Porras. He's not at a high percentage, or he should not be like a high level guy that you want to target for cash play, but for an everyday week to week startable, he's still startable unless there's a big setback, because limited on Thursday with a hamstring that just happened to pop up. It's better than being out because of a hamstring injury in practice. So there is still a decent chance that he's still going to play. And if you own him, you probably have to start him anyway.
And Joe Burrow's been hot at the right time. He is peaking at a perfect time for fantasy managers.
Yeah, my wife thinks so too. And then Saquon Barkley has a neck injury, and this one's concerning to guys like me that took the risk on Barkley, and he's been healthy all season, and then now it's like you've been crossing your fingers. I've been holding on to his backup all season, and you're just waiting for something like this to happen. Fortunately, it looks like it's not something that's major. He's probably still going to play. But it does say here, according to Dr. Edwin Porras, that based on historical precedents, this winds up being nothing most of the time. his volatility is increased to minimal to moderate heading into week 14. And Dr. Edwin Porras is not a guy that believes in somebody that is injury prone. He does believe in people that are injured, that are playing on injuries, that overcompensate for those injuries and get injured in other places. Like, if your left quad's a little sore and you do all your cutting on the right, you're more prone to get a right leg or a right foot injury, that sort of stuff. But other than that, I don't see how you can compensate for a neck injury that could cause more injuries later, unless he just decides not to dip down and go low. But
And this is complete speculation, but maybe because of this, they want to try to get him in space a little more often, and maybe they use him in the passing game on the outside a little more often, where it's more likely he can maneuver and anticipate contact and get away from contact and protect himself, like rather than running down the middle, lower in his shoulder. Which also, maybe if they do that, as far as fantasy goes, that's where the points are, man. You get Saquon Barkley to space, you throw him those short passes. That's where the points are. But again, that's just me, throwing stuff out there. And the Giants can't afford to not ride Saquon Barkley at this point. They're, after a tie last week against the Commanders, not gaining any steps. They got the Eagles this week. They got to be at their best. But I could see a scenario where they lose, 2 or 3 games, and by the fantasy championship, maybe they're shutting Barkley down.
Yeah, and they started off really hot, and they're not playing their best football now. So they're already trending in the wrong direction. And they're right there on that bubble. That 7 teams make the playoffs, and in the NFC, it looks like there's 8 that are kind of breaking away from everyone else.
Right.
They're tied in that little 6, 7, 8 spot. So,
right.
All right. So that's it for today's show. Again, don't forget to check out all of the action that's happening tonight. Like, just all kinds of crazy shows happening tonight. So make sure you hit that notification. And then Sunday morning, the Blitz for injury updates as the Blitz show is going on. Patreon.com/toilets and titles. Coach Sheps, I appreciate you coming on and bailing out George this morning.
Yeah. And I apologize to Kadarius Toney for skipping him and thinking you were talking about Deontay Johnson.
For what it's worth, I'm sure he doesn't care.
Yeah, true. Yeah. He seems like a guy who wouldn't.
Uh-huh. All right. I guess that's it. You have anything else, Coach?
That's it, man. Check us out Tuesday nights. And, we got tons of content, patreon.com/toilets titles. And like I said, if you sign up, the next person to sign up, I will match whatever you pay for your first month. So you'll basically get 1 month free. And we love building that community. We love building the title tribe. So we hope to see you there.